Recording in progress.
At 5 o'clock sharp. Everybody ready? Good evening and welcome to the special meeting of the Federal Way City Council for June 26, 2023. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. We are being televised. It's a special meeting for the sole purpose of conducting interviews and perhaps, if there is a successful vote, the selection of a new city council member. As you know, recently we had a council member resign, and that created a vacancy on our city council. That vacancy must be filled within 90 days or the county council will fill that. I'm sure we're all interested in making sure that we get to make that decision and not the county council. So we're here today for the purpose of interviewing candidates, and all of the candidates, to my understanding, are here. We have asked the candidates, they have every right to remain in the chamber, but as a courtesy, we've asked for fairness to have it's not required, but we've asked the other candidates to retire to a different area while the other people or the other candidates are giving their statement, and we'll get that started. So we originally had we had quite a number of applicants. By council rule, has the ability to reduce the number down to a manageable number that can be accomplished. By council rule, each candidate has 30 minutes. So you can imagine that if we had as many interviews as we had original applicants, I think we had 18 divided by half, about 9 hours worth of interview questions. I think that's, I'm not sure that that was fully necessary, but that was for another decision. That decision has been made. Since the time of the decision, we've had one candidate drop out, and so therefore we have the following, just to let everybody know, we have the following positions and in this order. The order was determined by random selection by our city clerk, Stephanie. Thank you, Stephanie, for all your work on this and helping this occur today. I'll explain who all the candidates are in just a moment. Each applicant will have up to 10 minutes to introduce themselves and provide their background and credentials. Following introduction, the applicant will be asked one question from each council member. After the applicant has answered all the questions, there is up to 10 minutes for clarifying questions and wrap-up statements, if there are that. If there aren't, then we'll move on to the next candidate. All right, the applicants in order of their interview will be Karen Brigado, Paul McDaniel, Anna Patrick, Lana Bostic, Gordon Bach, and Sadia Abdullah. We do have noted, for purposes of evaluation of qualifications of a candidate, if necessary, an executive session for that purpose. There can be no votes taken in executive session, and it is for the sole purpose, as outlined under that statute, to discuss qualifications and only that. With that, I think we had our first interview to start at 5:10, and that is Ms. Brigado. Council, are there any questions before we get started? Deputy Mayor and Deputy Mayor first, then Councilmember.
I think one of our applicants just walked in and didn't hear about staying in the room during the questioning. Oh,
No.
okay.
Oh, wait.
Oh, okay. So it's up to the individual. Okay,
I just wanted to make sure she knew about it.
very good. Okay, Councilmember Stefanos.
I'm just curious, I don't know if you're going to talk about this later, but the voting process, when we're ready?
I
are you
will.
gonna bring it later?
I'll read I've got the rule.
Okay.
I'm ready,
All right.
and I'll have it explained.
Thank you.
Okay? Council President.
This would be the time where we have to be fair to everybody so that you don't hear the questions ahead of time, so that everybody has the right to hear their questions when they're interviewed. So those who are not called the first time might want to leave the room, and we can't make you, but that would be a good time. Thank you very much.
No, we can't force it, as you know. Yeah, exactly. Council, any other questions before we get started? We want to stay, before we, actually, can you have,
Hey, guys.
Is she already? That's okay. I just want to, is she close?
She's in the permitting office.
Oh, okay. Is she walking this way?
No.
We got just a minute. I just want to say something. All right, thank you. I just want to say, on behalf of the council and on everybody here at the city, I want to thank, before we get this process started, before we do anything, thank you so much for the individuals that have applied. Thank you so much. We really appreciate this. It's really important that we have a great process. We're going to do our best up here to ask the right questions, fair questions, and do everything by the book. And we'll do so in a manner that I think upholds the dignity of the process and our city and everybody involved. But we are truly appreciative of your application. So let's go ahead and get started, and hopefully let's have a very productive time. Okay, the very first applicant is Karen Brugado.
Would somebody like to shut the door?
Yeah, I did.
Thank you.
You got it.
Oh, thank you. All right.
Good afternoon, Mayor Farrell, President Kochmer, Deputy Mayor Honda, council members Lydia Safa-Dawson, Mr. Dovey, Mr. Walsh, and Mr. Tron. I had no idea that I would be first in here, and I never wanted to win this, actually, at all, but I welcome the opportunity and the ability to serve. Thank you for recognizing that the work of commissions is essential for the city's growth and for good governance. The next few years' decisions will be pivotal for Federal Way. I have ideas about these decisions, and of course, I want to be involved in the democratic process. Thank you for listening to me during the public comment. I have watched ordinance for the admissions tax change. I have watched the ARPA funds get taken by the Arts Commission for Arts Explosion. I have seen the needle change and the doubling the Arts Commission's budget during that budget look-back period. And that, of course, will enable the Arts Commission to be able to bring us all of what they have on their work plan, which is great. I also am part of the Parks and Rec Commission, and I have brought some needed estrogen to that particular group. This is all male. We did have earlier, somebody ask about displaying a menorah candle in the town square park. And I understand that the denial, of course, was based on the legal opinion of separation of church and state. But soon after, I saw an article with Merrick Garland hosting an event on the White House Ellipse, attended by the president, vice president, the cabinet, and dignitaries. It was for the 43rd annual
Recording in progress.
lighting of the menorah on the White House Ellipse. And as far as they go, they considered it a constitutionally protected display of diversity. I would like to see that change here. I would like to see all religions displayed on our city parks, especially the town square park. We're sitting in the middle of Diversity Central right here. That counts religions too. Of course, we don't have to go that far to see change around here. Everett, of course, lost its biggest employer, Funko. Sound familiar? They decided to go bohemian, and they hired a graffiti artist called Hype. Anybody know about that? They also hired 140 graffiti artists, and they created a downtown winding walkway among restaurants, shops, where they displayed 30 new murals. And they created not only waypoints, but they made a city attraction. I want that to be here in Federal Way too. Of course, the Planning Commission has a hard time with TC, well, not a hard time, an exciting time with TC3 because The downtown core really has never been planned out before. We do need to be considered a tree city, and this is something part of planning. We're cutting down all the trees, of course, for IRG, Pape, Construction, Smith Brothers. But the Planning Commission, I believe, has 2019 data that doesn't have this in it. They need updated data. And also, we need to look into some new ideas. One of these ideas is the neighborhood councils approach. Seattle does this. It divides up the town into neighborhood councils. It disseminates information about traffic changes, construction. Particular citizens have their needs answered. This is a way to bring City Hall to the citizens themselves. You'd be surprised how many are out there that have no idea where City Hall is even located right now. This brings it to them. And also with planning, of course, I was at the Rising of the Dust. I expected something to happen. Of course, nothing did. But the main idea, of course, was I was anxious to hear ideas from the planning department. And it was a room full of different ideas, and I really want to be part of that process. I actually want this City Hall to move down there, too. And I leave you with a question, what would happen if this City Hall wasn't a part of the downtown core? What would happen then? Sound Transit is coming into town. And it has its wants. I've tried to deal with them as far as the artwork. They're completely immobile. And I would note that Mr. Clark Wiegman, the creator of the tower, the clock tower that's at the top of the Federal Transit Center, has had a hard time. They want to decommission his work after the workmen broke it, and he wants them some compensation to pay. It's like a David and Goliath, and I would love to approach them, not as an arts commissioner, but as a city council member. And I leave you with this one thought, too. When I was young, of course, I think in junior high, my dad decided to expand our home. He was an electrical engineer, and he went through he was his own contractor, and he was responsible for all of the requested permits and inspections. And because of that experience, or maybe some other way, he decided to be a part of the city government. A little town in Milwaukee, Oregon, suburb of Portland. For the next 3 decades, he was on the budget committee and the planning committee. He even served as city council. And I remember that summer because all summer he made us memorize Robert's Rules of Order, which I didn't think was necessary, but he said I'd need it later in life, imagine. But he actually asked me the hard questions. This is 40 years ago. And he asked me, what can the city do with the vagrants and the winos and the druggies? What can we do for them? And it's interesting that we are still asking that today. And of course that stayed with me, and it made me realize I was a sophomore at the time that life is beyond just the midterms and finals. But what matters is the city's approach to helping these people, a meaningful, compassionate way to have policies and programs and actions to help them. That's why I volunteer. I volunteer a lot because I care. That's why I want to be a part of the city council today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so we've got the first question. We'll start at position number 1. Councilmember Asefa Dawson for the first question.
Thank you so much for your comment. I took notes, and it's, no, I think you had some interesting and key information that you provided, so thank you. My question is, please share with us what diversity, equity, and inclusion mean to you and why they are important. And second part to that is, please give an example of a time when you have used these values in the workplace.
Well, we are leading in this country. Actually, it's called Kent, but it includes all of this area. It is the most diverse in the country. Diversity, inclusion, and equity runs through everything that we do. We recently put on Arts Explosion. We could not have done it without experiencing each one of those things. We had judges. One was Black, one was Latina, one was a Latvian-speaking woman. It just is invasive in everything we do. As far as work, there's nothing that I do that doesn't involve some degree of that. In choir that I am at for years, we have always encouraged that. I love being at Communities and Schools volunteer. Every time I volunteer for one of these girls, the first was Latina, the second was from the country of Eritrea in Africa. The second has a white Philippine mother and a black father. What is she? She's American, and that's all there is to it.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Hong Tran?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Karen, for applying. My question is, what would you do to address the lack of affordable housing in the city?
I think one of the people who have applied actually says that we have reached our prospective limit for affordable housing, low-cost housing. Affordable housing is something different. I believe there are sections of new housing going on around us. I believe a portion of them has been dedicated to low-cost housing. I know specifically some of the programs that are available to those with fixed income. There's one about a power bill. If that's based on your adjusted gross income, if we just increase that a couple more percentages points, we would get people applying. I know there's a lot of people down here that feel that housing is too expensive. If they just go north, they'll find it's even more expensive. My way of addressing it is just to help them through MSC, helps them through Fusion, helps them through. There is an area where you have the very poorest and on up, people that do not even reach that adjusted gross income to be able to even apply. I would help them any way I can.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Walsh?
Thank you, Karen, for your service. Federal Way, as you mentioned, is one of the most diverse communities in the nation. This diversity presents opportunities. What can we do as a city to unify us as one community while at the same time celebrating our diversity?
The use of Town Square Park for different religions would be one. I imagine a menorah, Kwanzaa candles, Festivus pole. I imagine we have a Buddhist temple right here in town, a mandala right there in the middle. We need to get together. We need to have unity among our diversity. The Arts Explosion was a good example of bringing everybody together under one roof, and was great. The Diversity Commission had a similar one. The Senior Commission had one as well. It's pervasive in everything we do. To make us one is to realize that we are all different. Just the flags that fly outside, the LGBTQ flag, that shows us that we are different, but we celebrate each one of us.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Dovey?
Yes, Karen. Could you please tell us 2 accomplishments that you're the most proud of and why?
Accomplishments. Well, we had a little thing called Arts Explosion. I was primary for all of the budgeting and the planning for that. I'm proud of that. We will have it next year. We will get all the kinks ironed out, and the framework is there. See, what else am I proud of? I have 3 sons, great sons. They were all publicly educated. We followed them through. We were wonderful PTA parents. None of them live here, though. They live beyond. So I've taken that time to make sure that the kids here are okay. I'm a member of Kiwanis here in town, which mission is for kids. I'm a Communities and Schools person that's mission is for kids. I volunteer because kids are important, and I'm happy with each one of my girls. I am actually one of the first person that I tutored under, mentee, was having her quinceañera, and I was invited. The whole thing, everybody there spoke Spanish except me, yet she had it translated for me. A 300-person quinceañera, and they had it translated just for me. I was so proud of her. It was great.
All right, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Thanks, Karen, for being here tonight. So my question is, what do you believe is the biggest issue facing Federal Way, and how would you suggest the council address it?
I noticed that actually in the application, and I put down microbrews. It was more of a joke than anything. Actually, the Atlantic magazine has an article that says there is a direct positive correlation between microbrews and success in the city. Do we have any microbrews? I don't think we do. Maybe we need one because it measures success. Some of the problems that we have, I don't really look at them as problems. I look at them as opportunities. We do have some crime downtown. Again, we will have crime. We had crime 40 years ago. We'll have crime 40. It will always be there. What we need, though, is to address it the right way. We have our police force at the numbers that we wish. What we need to do is make sure that they are where they need to be, where their equipment that they need to have. I'm trying to think of what else there is. Maybe the important thing for Federal Way is to plan a downtown core. Plan it well, around light rail. We need to make sure that our footprint is not as big as it should be. I know here at City Hall, the police force is pretty much outgrown downstairs. I know we have a governor who wants the police force to have at least half of their cars be electric. I know electric cars cannot be powered here. It's just not possible. But it can if you move closer out to the town square. All of the pluses are out there. And, well, that's what I would suggest to do. Please have City Hall move to downtown.
All right, thank you. Council President.
Hey, Karen.
Hi.
What would you do to attract business to Federal Way?
Business is already here, mostly. Light rail will do the rest. Pape Construction has a huge site at 320th. Smith Brothers, Dick's Burgers just, I think, launched their first sign. With the coming of light rail and the building downtown, we will get good and prosperous business here in town. What downtown really needs, though, right now is a captive audience, a captive employer group, such as the City of Federal Way. Putting hotels down there is a good idea. La Quinta, of course, is down there along with Hampton Inn and Marriott. I don't know if that's enough to be down there. I believe another hotel would be needed. What is the question again?
How would you attract business
Oh,
to
okay,
Federal Way?
business. We need to look beyond just having a teriyaki shop open. We need new business. And luckily, we've got a great economic development director who is having that happen right now.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All the council members have had an opportunity to ask a question. Now we've got 10 minutes, starting now, for any wrap-up questions. Council, any follow-up questions? Karen, do you have any, maybe let's start off. Do you have any follow-up statements?
Nope, I don't. Thank you.
Council, any other questions? All right, great job, Karen. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay, our next applicant will be Paul McDaniel.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, Paul.
Evening.
floor is yours. Actually, yeah, the floor is yours for the first 10.
Okay. Good evening. When I first received the email letting me know that I had moved on to the interview part of this application, I was a little overwhelmed with the 10 minutes notice that I was given to address the council. It was around that time that I received a text message from a friend, a very short, brief one that pretty much stated, congratulations and be yourself. If that person is listening tonight, I just want to let them know that that gave me a little bit of peace and relief to let me know that the main thing coming out here tonight is to let you guys know who I am and what my qualifications are for being up there with you guys on the council. A few years ago, I took a college English course on writing to improve my writing skills. And I felt one of the best ways to let you know who I am is to actually read that little writing I did, a little write-up I did. My name is Paul Russell McDaniel. I am a sentient being capable of processing information, spontaneous thoughts, and abstract ideas. I am also a son, a brother, an uncle, and a friend. I was once married and for a moment a father. I come from a family of 5. My parents are still together, and I have two blood sisters and 5 non-blood brothers. Two of my brothers are twins, and I have known them since I was 3 and 10 years of age. The other 3 I met in the Marine Corps. There are 19 children ranging from 9 months to 20 years of age, which I have chosen to help raise. I am called UP or Uncle Paul by 7 of them. These humans, along with a few other friends, comprise the essence of my life. My hobbies include jiu-jitsu, which I have a black belt in, ballroom dancing, trail running, where I've completed a couple of ultramarathons, including a 100-miler. For relaxations, I enjoy long walks and deep philosophical conversations while sipping on the blood of grapes. I am a Scorpio, so I am very loyal and dangerous at the same time. As for work, I am self-employed as a consultant in the technology field and primarily work with medical and construction-related businesses. What I just read to you are just a bunch of words, but inside those words are actually keys to unlocking who I truly am in my inner person. In the first part of this application, we were asked a series of questions. I'd like to revisit 2 of those questions. The first question I'd like to revisit was, what ideas and suggestions do I have to enhance the economic development of the city? As I mentioned, I've been a small business owner for over 20 years with a focus in technology and business consulting. I primarily focus with work on small to medium-sized businesses. I don't work with large corporations by choice. At this point in my career, I actually can choose which clients I get to work with and which ones I do not wish to work with. The reason I chose to work with small businesses is because they are family. Most small businesses have a very small workforce, and those employees they have are a family to them. And then those employees have families. So whenever I'm able to make a benefit or advance that company, I'm able to affect a lot of small families at the same time. So with an emphasis on small businesses, I think that the city is one of the areas to focus on is how to increase the amount of small businesses or how to bring more business to the small business and not always focus on the large one-hit wonders of a large corporation. Recently, I took a macroeconomics class, and I took the class basically because I wanted to understand what was going on in the economy at a larger scale. And in that class, I learned about the money supply, I learned about CPI, I learned about interest rates, inflation, how the government can affect the economy. And 2 things I realized is that on a local scale or a small government basis, taxes and spending are the 2 biggest things that the city can actually do to benefit the economy. If I was to take the spending as an example, one of the things I mentioned was if you are a city, spend local. The first option for any purchases or products or services by the city or an entity of the city should be to look for somebody who is a local business and then use their services or products. And then if you cannot find them locally, then to reach out to a larger audience if necessary. The other one is the tax side. As I mentioned beforehand in my write-up, I don't know the exact laws or limitations of the council on the taxes, but being that I work with a lot of construction companies, one of the areas that I hear a constant issue that they have or concern they have is with the permitting departments. It's usually the ability to get in hold of somebody, the time behind it, the costs and expenses associated with it. I do know a large piece of tax income comes from that development factor of a city. So I think there's some areas that we could work on in streamlining the process for the permitting, and maybe even looking at some areas where we could either lower the cost or even maybe eliminate a couple of those areas. The second question was, what is my understanding of the role of the city council? Basically, I believe a city council member's role is to be the eyes and the ears of the community. I feel that our job is to go out into the community and to listen to the concerns of the residents. And not only listen to the concerns of the residents, but also to address the issues that they run into on a daily basis. The only difference between the people who sit on this side and the people who sit on that side of that desk is power. We don't have the power to inflict laws and policies to make changes that we feel would make the city better. But sitting up there, you guys do. And that's actually one of the reasons why I put my name into the application for this process. The ideas and the mindset that I have is not as good or is not as useful if I'm sitting on this side. The only way to enact any of those ideas is to have the power to do the laws and the policies that I think will make a city a better for us. Which kind of brings me back to what I opened up with, the idea of what could I say to convince you guys that I should be one of the people who's on the city council. And to be honest, there's nothing. I mean, there's nothing I could say to convince anybody that I deserve to be up there, because I don't believe anybody deserves to be up there. I believe you guys were all chosen to be up there. It's not because you deserved it, it's because someone chose you because they thought you were the best person for that particular position. I believe that my purpose tonight is to show you why I think I am not the best candidate, but what value I add to the council by being up there. And I think that the main value that I can add to the council is being who I am, being myself, which is a common man with an uncommon mind. I'll leave it at that and open for conversation or questions.
All right, thank you. Councilor Bertrand, for the first question.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Paul, for applying. My question is, what would you do to address the lack of affordable housing in the city?
I think I mentioned it earlier with the permitting. We have a lot of vacant land. I do know, I went to a meeting up in Bellevue a while back, and it was on the home, making cities more dense is one of the topics. There was a conversation. I also work for Home Builders. It's one of my larger companies, is a franchise home builder with multiple locations. And a lot of them are actually trying to get away from building in the cities because of the permitting restrictions they have. I have a client right now I'm looking at starting up with who does garages, but the problem is he's starting to slow down, and because as soon as he gets a new client, it's 6 months before he can break dirt because of permitting to make the money start flowing. That time frame, I think, is probably the biggest detriment that we have to that one. The other one is, I like that you phrase not affordable housing. I find that affordable housing is a better way to look at it than low-income housing. I feel that by providing an easier flow process for the permitting, it will actually increase the ability to have affordable housing.
All right, Councilor Walsh.
Yes, thank you for applying. Federal Way is one of the most diverse communities in the nation. This diversity
Mike, please.
Oh, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
There
Okay,
you go.
all right. Federal Way is one of the most diverse communities in the nation. This diversity presents opportunities. What can we do as a city to unify us as one community while at the same time celebrating our diversity?
I think you need to bring everybody underneath the one umbrella. A prime example is probably controversial, but when I look around and I see, and I'll use the term flag as an example, multiple flags representing multiple groups, I don't feel that brings a group together. I feel you have to, in order to show that diversity and that unity in one thing, you have to pull around what makes the city. It's the families. So if you wanted to have more of that diversity pulled into the unity, I would say it's more focused on family-oriented. And I would say the city does a decent job at it, but it would probably be more outreach for families. And I would also say the small business factor. I'm going to pull business into it. I'm a businessman, so business in my mind is part of everything. So I'd say probably opening up more opportunities for people of diverse backgrounds to come together and look at seeing if there's any way to form business relationships across boundaries in that area.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Dovey.
Yes, Paul. Please tell us about 2 accomplishments that you're most proud of in achieving and why.
I'll pick one being physical. I did a 100-mile race, and it took me 31 hours and 24 minutes of nonstop movement. And that right there is 800 miles of practice to get to a 100-mile race, and it was 6 months of nonstop grinding of doing 6 days a week of running. So I would say on a physical aspect, I learned that when you do a run like that, you go through 4 stages. And the 4 stages that you go through is you go through a physical fatigue where the body just gives up. And once you get through that stage, you go into a mental fatigue where the mind just stops wanting to be out there. And after that one, you get into this weird emotional phase where you're just emotional. You don't understand anything. But the whole time you're out there, you're going back in your head, you're going back to, why am I here? When I grew up, what are the opportunities that made me to be the person I am? You go through and you live your whole life over and over again, going through all the different aspects. And the last one is spiritual. When you get close to that end, you don't feel any of the pain, you don't feel any of the emotion, you just feel this sense of joy and happiness knowing you're completing a goal. And the other one, I'd have to say it's when I ran for office last year. It was something that I wasn't sure if I wanted to do, and then I just stepped up and did it. And even though I got a little pushback and I was an underdog in it, I went out there and I gave it my all, and I am super happy that I did that because I learned a lot and I met a lot of cool people. So I would say those are the 2 things.
Great. Councilmember Seffa Dawson.
Thank you for applying for this position. My question is, please share with us what diversity, equity, and inclusion mean to you and why they are important. And also, please give an example of a time when you have used these values in the workplace.
What were the terms again?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
I don't use them. I feel they're divisive. I teach on Saturday mornings jiu-jitsu to kids. I taught wrestling to middle schoolers. When I went in there and I saw those kids, I don't look at them as anything other than my kids. So when I have people ask me those kind of questions, I feel like it's making me have to break people into categories and boxes and vulcanization, and I don't believe in that. I don't support that stuff. My diversity is I treat everybody the same. Either I like you or I don't like you. You fall into 2 boxes for me, and that's it. I don't have anything else really to say on that one.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Deputy Mayor Honda.
Hey, Paul. What do you believe is the biggest issue facing Federal Way, and how would you suggest the council address it?
It's safety. I mean, I just had my car broken into again 2 weeks ago. So I would say safety, number one. And we've talked about addressing it a couple times. I've talked to a few guys outside of here on that one. I know the biggest problem is we're short-staffed on police and we have restrictions on police. But I still feel there's laws that the police can enforce that we don't step up to. I know that if you do see someone doing drugs, you are able to go talk to them. You talk to them the first time, you give them a pamphlet. You talk to them again, you give them a pamphlet. You talk to them the 3rd time, you cite them. The other one is the homeless encampments. They're a pain in the butt, and they are probably the biggest deterrent when I drive around the city to just feeling disgusted. I mean, I see them all the time. I see people who will start a camp, who close it down, they start it up again. I don't know what the legal limitations are, but my mind sticks outside the boxes of sometimes the legal limits, and I would look at what kind of capabilities, and if the city does get sued, I'd weigh it out. What's the lawsuit potential compared to not having that on a daily basis? Does the city and the residents actually approve of us maybe going after it a little bit stronger with a potential lawsuit and saying that lawsuit actually is worthwhile because the city is cleaner and the people feel safer? I mean, the fact that I have to go to Safeway and see security guards and cameras out there, they're down to 1 door, and the amount of garbage and drug deals I see there, I mean, that's it. It's the safety in the city. And like I said, I don't know what the legal limitations are. If I knew that, I'd be able to give a more precise one, but that's my 2 cents on that one.
Council President Kochmar.
Hey, Paul, how would you attract business to Federal Way?
Tax incentives. I mean, that's one area that I would definitely focus on. An educated populace is another big one. We've been known as a bedroom community since I've been here, and it's been almost 30 years. I'm third generation, 30 years, and we've been known as a bedroom community, so I definitely focus on that one. I'd also reach out to the SBDC at Highline and bring them in here and start seeing, like I mentioned in my write-up, is it possible to build a small business incubator with the high schools? The businesses nowadays are online, and I mean, my business is online. Everything I work for is based off the internet. It's what I do for clients is I present their internet presence to the world, and I've been watching that for 15 years build the highest volume of returns for them on investments. So I would say I'd focus on that one. It's not only provide incentives to bring in the larger ones, but I also look at homegrown. What could we do using the Small Business Development Center and local stuff to build up small businesses? Because I feel small businesses are the #1 key factor in my mind. You can lose a couple small ones and not take a big hit. You lose a Weyerhaeuser or one of those bigger companies, the whole city feels that hit. So I'd kind of focus on those two areas.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, council, any other follow-up questions? We've got, I think we've got 10 minutes for additional question. Councilmember Safadosin?
Yeah, I'm curious, in your application, you talk about sales tax holiday a couple of times a year, and I'm just curious about that and how that would work.
So like my mindset, like don't know the legal limitations on it, but my mindset on that one would be literally rotating through maybe restaurants at a period of time to stimulate restaurant revenues. Another one would be like, I know a top buyer is beds. You don't think about it, but people buy beds. So it's like finding what those areas are and then saying, okay, rotating through the different industries in the city, when could we present an opportunity where people could actually kind of be forced to save a little bit, and then once they have the money saved, be able to go out and get a benefit by having a tax break on buying that larger item product. The times and the industries, I'd have to, like I said, sit down a little bit longer and kind of determine which ones you can and cannot play the game with. The other one is the permitting side. Is there a time frame where we know that permits start to dip based off the numbers? We want to increase maybe home remodels. Well, what's the limitations on home remodels other than the interest rates right now? Can we somehow incentivize people to actually purchase bigger items by doing the tax holiday? Does that make sense, or?
No, it does. I was just curious.
Okay.
What you were trying to say, but, yeah.
All right,
Thank
Councilman,
you.
any further follow-up questions? Councilmember Walsh?
Paul, you say you work with a lot of small businesses. What is the nature of your business?
So I'm a technology and business consultant. I specialize in internet presence management. So my background is pretty much everything from dial-up all the way to paid advertisements. I do analytics and consulting on that, the information of flow of traffic to a website. I then look at the business, the marketing numbers, and the internet numbers, and determine marketing return on investments for my clients, and then we put the advertising spend towards the areas that have the highest return. And across the board, between its paper, mailing, TV, radio, and internet, for the last 10 years, internet's dominated that. And then on that side, domination comes from Facebook, Google, Bing, and Pinterest. So I then look at the numbers, and depending on if you're targeting, if you target females, it's going to be Pinterest. If you're targeting males, it's YouTube. If you're targeting someone who's over the age of 55 and influential, it's going to be Microsoft. If you're targeting general population, it's going to be Google. So I look at the data, and then based off of that one, I build profiles for my client base and then target those people.
Thank you.
All right, council, any other questions? All right, Paul, is there anything you'd like to finish off with, or anything else you'd like to say?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Great job. Okay, next we'll have Anna Patrick. All right. Anna Patrick, come on up. All right, you've got 10 minutes. Oh.
My timer?
That's not us. Your time hasn't ended yet.
Someone's wishing you good luck.
Okay. So do I just start?
Would you, yes, actually, you've
Okay.
got 10 minutes.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council President, and Council. And I just, 10 minutes sharing.
Yeah.
about myself,
Yeah, and then
which
then
isn't
we'll,
going to take 10 minutes, but,
actually, let's restart the clock. So we're going to go 10 minutes with you.
Okay.
And just whatever you want to say, and then we'll go around, every council member asks questions, and then when we're all done with the questions, then I'll ask the council if they've got any follow-up questions. And then when they're done asking you additional questions, then during that 10-minute time, you can either sum up, or if you've got anything else to say, or not.
okay,
Okay.
great. So I would like to thank you for the opportunity to interview for the open seat on the council. First, I would like to share a bit about my background and why I'm here. As a lifelong resident of Federal Way, or of Washington State, having lived in cities such as Auburn, Puyallup, Sumner, Kent, and most recently in Federal Way, I am deeply concerned about the pressing challenges of drug addiction, mental illness, crime, and homelessness that impact our families and communities. Through my personal experiences and observations, I've witnessed the profound and detrimental effects of these issues. Growing up in the 70s, a time of turmoil and challenges, I was raised by a family that valued open-mindedness and tolerance. These values have influenced my perspective and have led me to wholeheartedly support efforts aimed at addressing societal inequalities. However, it is disheartening to see the lack of concern from systems that we rely on for support regarding the impact on others in our community as they advocate for justice. When I was a young child, I was temporarily exposed to distressing experiences and dangerous situations associated with individuals living in unstable conditions. This exposure occurred while temporarily under the care of someone previously involved in the criminal justice system due to drug addiction and criminal activity. While my personal experience was temporary, it serves as a stark reminder of the ongoing challenges faced by many vulnerable individuals, including children in our community. These experiences have left a lasting impact on me and fuel my commitment to advocating for their safety and well-being. Hope that's not my car. Many individuals in our community feel the effects of being victimized, robbed, and worried about their children being exposed to drugs and violence in their environment. With the regional advocacy over the past 5 years or so for people involved in the criminal justice system, there has been a general discounting of the broader impacts on some of the most vulnerable, who are often the silent ones. This drives my unwavering focus on accountability, consistency, transparency, and establishing boundaries that safeguard the public. I have always been interested in social structures of society, and I've been observant of these dynamics in our region throughout the years. I believe it is crucial that we make informed and intentional decisions as our region continues to grow. As a community advocate, I've highlighted the burden of excessive tax-exempt housing in Federal Way by compiling data myself, as you know. We need a balanced housing landscape that generates revenue and meets residents' needs. Vibrant public spaces attract businesses and promote inclusivity, and I support this. Prioritizing public safety through enhanced law enforcement, community partnerships, and security measures is vital. Addressing drug addiction requires prevention, treatment, and support services. Collaboration among organizations, schools, law enforcement, and government is crucial to tackle crime, addiction, and homelessness. Transparency and comprehensive data help to make informed decisions and prioritize the voices of our community, and that's something that I have advocated for. I hope this provides a picture of what I value and what I can bring to the council if selected.
All right.
I guess I could share a little bit about my work, who I am. I work in many of you know that I work in the Federal Way School District. I work as a data and BECA secretary. So I work a lot with families and a team there. We do a lot for the community to support them in getting through the school system and supporting them to be successful. And, I see the challenges there, and I advocate for ways that we can improve systems and work better with other systems. And so I think you've heard about that before. I am candid, and I work to be respectful and thoughtful at every level of government. I talk at the school district, I go to the board meetings there, I talk here, I go to King County. So I have tried to work at all levels to advocate for Federal Way and our community. And I value data analysis, and I like to have a broad, comprehensive set of data to look at, so it's not just looking at one hyper-focused picture, but the big picture, and then we can use that as a tool to drive our policies. So that's important to me. And I've worked with the community to advocate for crime prevention for businesses, cleaning up the community, and advocated for safety measures, worked with the police department. So that pretty much sums that up. So I guess that's it.
All right.
For that
Thank,
part.
all right. Thank you. All right, Councilmember Dovey.
Yes, Anna, thank you for applying. Could you please tell us about 2 accomplishments you're most proud of achieving and why?
I think one of the things that I'm most proud of as an accomplishment in this, are we talking about City of Federal Way or as a person? So, I mean, overall, I think that as a person, I worked my way through college, and it wasn't easy. It took me 11 years, and, you know, bumps in the road along the way, and I was able to accomplish it and push through it. And so that's the first one, I guess, and I'm proud of that. I got a degree in psychology, and I was also working on science as well, and so those were my focuses. And I worked in the research field for a while, so that's why I value data, and that's kind of why I'm focused on it a lot. So, so that's number one. Secondly, raising my children, I guess, is an accomplishment. It's probably not relevant to this role, but they've graduated recently, and on they go. And, you know, we set them out into the world, and I'm sure they'll have bumps in the road and figure things out along the way, too. But as a, you know, while raising my children, I have advocated for the best for our city and the schools, and I guess I'm proud of that. Along the way, I've worked to better the Federal Way because of that, help make it a better place. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Councilmember Walsh.
Thank you for applying, Anna. Federal Way is one of the most diverse communities in the nation, and this diversity presents opportunities. What can we do as a city to unify us as one community while at the same time celebrating our diversity?
That's a big question. So I think the most important is that we have public spaces where we can all gather and we can have conversations, sometimes hard conversations, but I think face-to-face conversations are the best when we want to help understand different perspectives and share our stories with each other. And, you know, it's important that we make sure that that is a guiding principle for our city, something that we prioritize. And I think that over the last couple of years, I've seen a kind of a push for separating everybody, and there's been a lot of division, and that bothers me. As a child growing up, I didn't like living in separate spaces. I noticed it as a kid. I wanted, I value living in Federal Way because of the mixture of people, the diversity, and I wanted to stay that way. And so I think that we have to be intentional in our policy making, and you know, in talking to other people about this division, you know, you hear, well, we need to just make sure that our needs are met. And so we have to support the different needs and listen to each other. But it's important that we all listen to each other because we have a diverse variety of perspectives that we bring together, and make sure that we're not driving people out as a result and creating less diversity in our community. So that answers your question.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Tran.
Anna, thank you for applying. My question is, what would you do to address the lack of affordable housing in the city?
Well, I don't know what the easy solution is. I think more housing, no, maybe more housing will, you know, create more options and, you know, open up more opportunity for housing, and then they'll stop raising the prices. But reality is probably not. I don't know if housing is ever going to be affordable at this rate. It doesn't feel like it. Because, even the affordable housing that we have, the Devco buildings, those are $1,700 a month. So I think looking to other options like cottage housing, if we can make that affordable, would be an ideal situation. If we can, condominium options, more of those options, making it something that people can invest in so that they can lock in the price rather than having rents continue to rise, more of those types of options. Rooming together is always a good option for people when housing is expensive. It's the housing for families that is challenging. And so we need to find some better options for home ownership, in my opinion, for families. The rent is just not sustainable. Maybe with more housing, we'll have rents at least stabilize, but affordable housing is not affordable. It benefits the builder and the developer, and it doesn't benefit our city. We have zero taxes coming in from that. And so I just think we need to look to these other options and be creative. So that answers your question.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Safi-Dawson.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. Please share with us what diversity, equity, and inclusion means to you and why they are important. And please give an example of a time when you have used these values in the workplace.
So I guess I think of my workspace when I think of diversity, equity, inclusion. And the times that I've seen it really benefit our community is when we utilize some of the tools that we have at our disposal to help to level the playing field for our families. So, for example, if they're homeless, trying to recognize when a family is homeless and providing them with the resources to get them back to school and make sure that they're included in after-school activities and have the transportation to get them home. And I see it playing out with language supports in the schools. We have a lot of families that come in from out of the country, and we have certain protocols that we follow to help transition them to our country and to our schools, and there's outside organizations that we can tap into for that. And we have a lot of language translation devices that we utilize to work with the families. And this is really, really helpful, and you can see that it does break down a barrier that is there until you can utilize these devices and really, truly communicate. There's languages that aren't perfect, but we're working to improve it all the time. And let's see, inclusion, I think we have to be mindful of including everybody in the school environment and make sure that everybody feels safe and knows that there's people that can be in their corner. And sometimes we have to find ways to make sure that people are aware of that, and we have counselors and we have family liaisons and those types of resources in the community that really help. So did that answer your question? Okay.
All right, Deputy Mayor Honda.
Thank you. Hi, Anna.
Hi.
What do you believe is the biggest issue facing Federal Way, and how would you suggest the council address it?
I believe the biggest issue facing Federal Way is that we're a young city, and we're still trying to figure out who we are. And also we are kind of under the control of King County and what they decide to do for us. And sometimes we're not included at the table. And in the conversations of how some of the decisions made at that level impact us. And I also feel like the biggest challenge we have is that we are trying to strategize to become a city that includes everybody, doesn't squeeze people out, but at the same time can add a little bit of gentrification that adds a little tax base to our city. A lot of the housing that we get is tax exempt, and we're starting to kind of shift a bit, starting to see more market rate, but we really need to bring jobs to our city, good paying jobs. And I think that is probably one of the challenges that we have. And with market rate housing and a diverse income base and educational opportunities, maybe branching out to other options, can build our employment base. And then, with Sound Transit coming, planning around the downtown and making sure that we are setting ourselves up for success so that we can have these things that I speak of is the biggest, most important pressing challenge, in my opinion.
Council President Kochmar.
How would you attract business to Federal Way?
Well, I think first and foremost, we have to make sure our city is a safe city. We have to make sure that we don't have businesses getting broken into, that we don't have drug addiction, open air drug addiction on every street corner and storefront, which we don't, but sometimes we do. It's certainly not attractive to businesses. And we need to make sure that we have partnerships with the businesses, with the property managers, with the business, with the workers, and figure out a way that we can help empower the businesses to make sure that they are advocating for their own safety, but also making sure that our city is there for them. And we need enough police patrolling the streets, and we need partnerships with, I really do think that having somebody that can reach out to the drug-addicted individuals in the community, I see them on when we're cleaning up the streets, we talk to them, and they need somebody there for them, and there's not a lot that we could do right now. And so it is discouraging, and it's very heart-wrenching, and we've got to be able to do more there. Rather than just moving them along, we've got to be able to help them. But really, if we want businesses to thrive, we have to have an environment that's conducive to that, and making sure it's safe, and we don't have people breaking into cars and shoplifting and stealing from stores, and that's happening every single day in our city right now. So I would vocally activate, or I would vocally advocate for that, and I would work to reach out to businesses and help them.
Thank you.
All right, all the council yes, all the, what's that? Yeah, all the council members have asked questions. Council, any other follow-up questions? Councilmember Tran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anna, in your application and earlier you mentioned that you like to collect and analyze data, which is great. I mean, I love doing that myself too, part of my work. Can you share with me what type of software that you usually do to collect, analyze, and draw your conclusion from?
I don't really use software. I just download data. Like, for example, with the housing data, I went to the King County website and I downloaded the eReal property database or Excel spreadsheet, and it had all the different, every city in the county, and I had to kind of filter that out and find Federal Way. And then I filtered that out even more and found the exempt properties. And then I went even further to find, so it was very time-consuming, and it would be great if somebody could set up these systems for us so that we can actually go and say, hey, how are we doing? And be able to look at this and have it be more automated, because I did it last summer when I was home. I work in a school, so this is what I did in my summertime, in my spare time. And it's just something that I had been seeking in the community. I went to various entities and asked, and nobody had the answer, and I knew there was something more to it. And so as soon as I gathered that data, I was able to say, see, yeah, this is a problem here. And so, yeah, that's an example. It's very archaic. So, in the school system, I use their database. It's a Synergy database. I pull attendance data, and they have, different filters set up, so I can pull that data that way.
Okay.
It's definitely helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, council, any follow-up questions? All right. Anna, do you have anything to add or any closing statements?
Not really that I can see. No, not really.
Great.
You have it in my application, so any other details are there, so.
All right. Thank you. Great job. Thank you. Okay, now we're on to Lana Bostic.
Hello.
Hi there. So we're gonna give you 10 minutes to pretty much give your opening statement and your qualifications or whatever you'd like to say. After your statement, then we'll go have all the council members have an opportunity to ask a question. When they're all done, I'll ask if any council members want follow-up questions, and then if you want to close it out with any additional statements.
Okay.
With that, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. My name is Lana Bostic, and I have lived in Federal Way since 1980. I raised my children here, and I have seen a lot of changes. I lived here before Federal Way was really a city, and I have seen a lot of changes. Some are good, some aren't. Since my time in Federal Way, I was on the Arts Commission from I can't remember exactly, 97 to 2001, and did a lot of help with the public art that we have now, and the building of Celebration Park and the community center. I'm now I am the chair of the Federal Way Senior Commission, and this is a new commission that has been going on for about 2 years, and I'm very proud of all the work that we have done. We just put on in May a very successful senior health resource fair. I'm very interested in trying to make Federal Way a safe and enjoyable place for seniors to live, and I really like being on that commission. I've been involved in the PTA in Federal Way. I've been a big supporter of Fusion and the Multi-Service Center and the Community Center. I retired from Franciscan Hospice in 2019, where I was a patient care coordinator for 20 years there. I managed a team of people, nurses and physicians and social workers, chaplains, people of all varieties, and worked with a lot of people from all walks of life. I think that I am a good listener, and that I'm a good learner, and I was a good team leader and team member in that position that I had. And I learned a lot about people and meeting them kind of where they are and see what they need. And I also think I have compassion, and I also have some good critical thinking skills. I've also been attending city council meetings for a long time, and I'm involved in my local LD. I am willing to work with the council and the community and continue being involved with the city. I know that there are a lot of issues that we have in the city, but I also know that there are a lot of solutions. And I think that people working together can help these solutions work. And then I had one more little addition. This says that I have lived in Federal Way for 43 years, and I've seen many changes, but I continue to be proud to be here. I am a single senior citizen woman, and I want to be safe here. I also live in an apartment, and I don't want to move because I don't want to move because I'm unable to afford my rent. So housing is important to me. Safety is important to me. I enjoy the diversity here, and I support the arts, the library, the PAC, the community center, and the parks and the beaches here. My grandchildren live here, and I want them to be safe at school in the community. I'm excited to see the growth here. I know there are issues to work on, and believe many can be solved, but we need to think of the future and not how things used to be. And I would be honored to be part of the city council and help to work on the challenges and celebrate our successes. And that's what I have.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Lana, first we're going to have a question, we're going to give, everybody gets a turn to go first. Councilmember Walsh.
Lana, thank you for your service in the community, and thank you for applying.
You're welcome.
Federal Way is one of the most diverse communities in the nation. With that diversity, this diversity presents opportunities. What can we do as a city to unify us as one community while at the same time celebrating our diversity?
Well, I think we have a good start here with the Diversity Commission that does a lot of things to support different groups of people. I think we need to have education so people understand where all these diverse people are from and what their cultures are, and learn a little bit more about them so we can all learn to live together. I think there's a lot of activities that are going on as far as we had Juneteenth celebration. There, you at the council have a really good relationship with the Korean community, as you have been able to go to Korea and China to see our sister cities. And I just think, you know, people being open to other people. I've been volunteering in my granddaughter's school, and she's in 2nd grade, and there's lots and lots of diversity there. And I think we just got to start really with that too, with kids getting along and understanding that everybody doesn't look like them and act like them, and be able to really understand and be inclusive to people.
Thank you.
Councilor Dovey.
Yes, thank you very much, Lana, for applying.
You're welcome.
Please tell us about 2 accomplishments you are most proud of achieving and why.
In my life,
Wide open.
I think that one of my biggest accomplishments is that I worked with, I was a nurse for Franciscan Hospice, and that was the best learning experience I think that I've ever had. I learned a lot about people. I saw people in all sorts of situations, and I was able to help people most of the time make a easy transition from this life to wherever they were going. It was really sometimes stressful, but I learned a lot of skills as far as being able to communicate with people and kind of understand people, and also know that sometimes you can only do what you can do, and you shouldn't tell things or say things that you don't know and that you can't do. And I've been, what's another accomplishment? I think another accomplishment that I've been really proud of in the city is the Senior Advisory Commission, because that was something that was kind of asked for by the community for a long time and finally got started. And we have done a lot of good work, and I think that's something that will stay in the community for a long time. I'm also proud that I was on the Arts Commission, because every time when I go by the PAC, not the PAC, but the community center, I remember how many people didn't think that was going to be important to have in Federal Way. And now it's so important and so busy and so well loved that I'm really glad that I could be on that, part of that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Seffa Dawson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for applying, Lena.
Thank you. You're welcome.
My question is, please share with us what diversity, equity, and inclusion mean to you and why they're important. And please give an example of a time when you have used these values in the workplace.
Can you repeat the second thing you had said after diversity?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion
Oh, okay.
mean to you and why they're important, and then an example where you've used them.
Well, I kind of have to go back to when I worked as a nurse, because I took care of people from all kinds of diversity, from different places, from different cultures, different economic systems, and I just learned that everybody has to be treated like a person. And it didn't matter if they lived in a mobile home
place and their neighbors were smoking meth, or if they lived in a very, very expensive home someplace, everybody had to be treated the same. They had to be treated with respect, and you had to take them for where they were and see what their needs were, and to not be judgmental on what I thought was better for them or not.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Tran.
No, thank you for applying, and thank you for your service on the Senior Commission.
Welcome.
So my question is, what would you do to address the lack of affordable housing in the city?
Okay, I have an answer to that. I think that what the city there is a program called Health Through Housing, which is through King County. It's a model, and that is a model for getting people into housing. I think that that's what they need, and that is something that we need to follow. And are you talking about homeless people or just everybody?
Affordable housing in general.
Okay, so that is a big problem, and I think that we need to, I think what the city is doing as far as building housing downtown is good, but that's not really affordable housing, so maybe they need to look at making a part of that more affordable. And also, I think I would like to see more buildings or places that are been like abandoned, like the old Pacific West building that's on First Avenue, something like that, that could be made into low-income apartments or condos or something where other people could live and could be affordable.
All right, thank you. Deputy Mayor Honda.
Thank you. Hi, Lana.
Hi, Susan.
What do you believe is the biggest issue facing Federal Way, and how would you suggest the council address it?
So I think the biggest problem we have now is our homeless, houseless population. And I think that the Health Through Housing model would be the best thing to follow for that. And the reason I think it's a big problem is because small business owners are getting worried about this. It affects everybody. It affects all the grocery stores. It affects crime. And it's just a big problem. So I think that the bottom line is people need to be housed. People need to have a place to be safe and to not think that they have to live on the street and that they will be injured or all their stuff will get stolen or whatever like that. So I know that King County has been working with this Health Through Housing program. And we have had the ability to have the Stevenson Hotel as a emergency center for people. And I think that we need to open that and have that be someplace where people can go. Right now, there's no place people can go from the emergency room if they're homeless, and that's where they end up. And we need to have some place where people can go and be safe, and then hopefully, get more referrals and be able to get out in the community again and get work and take care of themselves. And they can't do that if they are living on the streets. But if they have a safe place, then I think they could be able to go there and stay out of the ER. It would reduce crime, it would reduce littering, and I think that that's just what we have to do, is look at different places where we have rooms and houses for people to be. I know that those buildings can be staffed by Catholic Community Services, who knows what they're doing and can do this. And I think what we have been doing is not really working, and we need to think of something else. We need to do a different way to try to take care of our homeless people.
Thank you.
All right, Council President Kochmar.
Hey, Lana, can you tell me what you would do to attract business to Federal Way?
Business? Well, I think that what we're doing with the TC3 is really good. I think that having a vibrant downtown is really important. And from what I can tell about it, I think that will bring in some businesses. The light rail is going to bring in a lot of people and a lot of businesses, and I think that whole project has been really well thought out and done. And I guess the other thing I would think about is I don't really know what's going on at the mall, and that might be something to look at because it doesn't seem like it's very busy, and there might be another alternative to put different businesses in there. I don't know if the city even has any control over the mall, but the other thing I think that would help businesses if we got people off the streets and people weren't afraid that their businesses were going to get broken into and things were going to get stolen and there was going to be trash around, and if we had more control over that, then I think more people would want to have businesses and go to them.
Okay, great. Council, are there any other questions for Lana? Lana, do you have any closing thoughts?
No, I just want to say thank you again for this opportunity, and I'm not a politician, and I haven't been involved in something like this very much, but I'm so interested in it, and I'm really willing to work with the group, and I think that I think that I could bring a lot of good things to this and to this council, and I would look forward to seeing what good things we have for Federal Way. I know we're a really kind of young city, and there's been a lot of changes, and but I think that there's so many good things here, and there's solutions that we can work on, and I'm just looking forward to be honored to work with all of you. So thanks very much.
Great, thank you very much.
And
Great
I would
job.
just like to say thank you for being a hospice nurse.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Okay, now we've got Gordon Bach. Welcome, Gordon.
Welcome.
Come on up. You'll have, you've got about 10 minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself, your qualifications, wherever else you want to say. When that concludes, then we'll go around the council for questions. When that concludes, then we'll ask council members if they have follow-up questions. And finally, we'll ask you if you've got any closing thoughts or statements. With that, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you very much, Mayor Farrell. My name is Gordon Bach. I have been a member or a resident of Federal Way for the last 25 years. My family grew up here, long time in Federal Way schools. My family has been here, and I've gone to school at the University of Washington and in a computer science, and then got my MBA, and is still retained here in Federal Way. My entire life, in some way, I guess I could probably summarize, and I'm not sure I'll be able to take 10 minutes, has been how to improve the world I live in. And I'll be quite, when we're young, we grow up and we're trying to make a living for our families, right? Trying to put food on the table and roof over our head. But I had an epiphany when I was working in healthcare that there was an opportunity for me to do more than just for myself, but maybe find ways to improve not only healthcare outcomes, but reduce the cost of care for patients. And that epiphany came from reading an article, and it changed my life. So I began being on boards. I began working in such a way that had meaning and purpose. So my first foray into a board was on the group health, now Kaiser Permanente Leadership Advisory Panel, where we discussed governance. Some good things came out of that. And unfortunately, we're making great progress before the acquisition to Kaiser Permanente. Later, a gentleman here in Federal Way, I made an acquaintance, runs a a nuclear reactor in Fedgeway and teaches high school kids, does a fantastic job, and his students win nationals, and my son went to the International Science Fair. And I helped him teach kids, youth, because I believe that family is our future, children are our future, and I've lived that way my entire life. So he was able to get me a job at Microsoft, where I improved governance, global governance for cryptography and identity. And I began, as I looked around, and especially when COVID hit and things kind of shut down, like where else can I make an impact? Where can I make a difference? And I found myself on the Washington State Fatherhood Council, looking at the impact of children who grow up in homes that don't have fathers, and the impact it has on society today. Conducted tons of research, and we've made some great progress over the last few years. And I could throw statistics out here that would just be astonishing, but it's one of the greatest threats, I think, to our society, is the destruction of the family. I've later found myself just recently on the Washington State Prenatal to 25 Mental Health Commission, which is evaluating there's a rise in mental health issues for our youth, and the state, through legislature, wants to identify ways to, or wants to understand our current ecosystem and perhaps ways to improve it and document it. So that has been a fantastic journey. And I've been able to work with great people from Spokane to Olympia to up in Everett, leaders in the community who are trying to make a difference. And so that's a little bit about myself. From my career, I have been a project manager at Microsoft for the last 7 and a manager at the University of Washington. But making a difference in the community I live and trying to leave this place better than it was when I got here is really my goal.
All right, thank you. Why don't we start with questions from our Deputy Mayor Honda?
Thank you. It's nice to meet you. What do you believe is the biggest issue facing Federal Way, and how would you suggest the council address it?
That's a good question. One of the challenges that I think we all shop in Fedgeway, and I shop in other places. One of the challenges I hear is shoplifting is a big deal, and yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest issues is shoplifting, is it impacts businesses of all sizes, whether it's big or small. And it also sends a message to citizens whether we care about whether people follow the rules or not. And I think the city of Fedgeway, and this is when I spoke to some other people outside of Fedgeway and who had some relations to other members here in the city, an emphasis on reducing crime would be my something I would propose the city to do.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Council President Kochmar?
Thank you. Gordon, with your experience, how would you attract business to Federal Way?
Well, reducing crime is a big one. Ensuring that our policies are business friendly. Our regulations encourage businesses as opposed to discourage them. And in all honesty, I have not looked at all of the federal regulations, so I don't know if there is something that needs to be improved or not, to be quite honest with you. It's something that I'd have to look into. But I think addressing the crime, and I will say, I was just talking to my daughter this morning, the homeless situation has improved in the city, and I think that's a fantastic step to encouraging businesses to locate or operate here in the city.
All right. Councilor Tran?
Good evening. Go Huskies. My question is this. What would you do to address the lack of affordable housing in the city?
That's a really challenging question. There's really, and I was just talking to the other candidate about this. There's really two ideologies to really address affordable housing. There's one ideology is rent controls or controls in certain ways. Another ideology is allowing the development of more housing. Both, we face market forces no matter what, and it's important to take those into account. Certain regulations discourage the creation of new houses, so we need to be cognizant of that. And myself, I was a renter for over 12 years here in Federal Way. I was remarried, and my wife and I were able to save some pennies, so we owned some rental properties down in Auburn, and so I see both sides of the equation, and I'm very astute to those. I think one of the things that we could address is businesses buying up single-family homes, and I think that might be something that could address some of the increase of housing prices, but to actually bring down prices to make them more affordable, we need to somehow increase the supply. And we need to allow people to be able to rent without a huge amount of regulation, because it's a really difficult to rent, and it's a legal minefield, to be honest with you. It's tough.
All right.
I don't know if that answered your question? Yeah.
Councilmember Walsh.
Thank you for applying. Federal Way is one of the most diverse communities in the nation. This diversity presents opportunities. What can we do as a city to unify us as one community while at the same time celebrating our diversity?
I think that's important to identify what unites all of us. It doesn't matter what our background is. What is the thing that does unite us? And I think, from my opinion, when I look at it, and hopefully I have the right perspective, and I could certainly be swayed, but it seems that the progression of the city, so our children, being able to have safe places and parks and recreation, the progression of the city without new children, without new kids and families being able to grow, that seems to be a city would eventually shrivel up and disappear, or having a place welcoming for people to come. So having that commonality of what unites us, I think, is the most important to start with. And then, and I think that's I'll stick with that one.
All right. All right, thank you. Councilmember Dovey.
Yes, please tell us about 2 accomplishments you're most proud of in achieving and why.
2 accomplishments. Yeah, you're pushing the envelope, aren't they? No, one of the biggest accomplishment was some students I was teaching at Northwest Nuclear. No programming experience. We built amazing program tied into Azure. So these kids did just technology you see at Microsoft, and these kids did this, and they went off to the International Science Fair, and now they have fantastic careers. And just seeing that progression and the impact that it had was fantastic. The other accomplishment is really when I was a Scoutmaster years ago. I wasn't an ordinary Scoutmaster. I was horrible with the awards, but I would always take the kids on big hikes. We called them pain and suffering, but they were a lot of fun. And the reason was that I felt that through some adversity, it bonds people together and causes them to grow. And Nietzsche even referenced this. And these kids have done amazing in their lives, each and every one of them. And I got to see them not too long ago, and there was the gratitude they had and expressed of that time in their youth when they were able to climb mountains and kayak 50 miles and seeing where their lives are at today, and knowing that you had an impact in that. Not a huge one, but just some impact. That was probably one of my most gratifying recent events.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Sefa Dawson.
Yes, thank you for applying, and also for your involvement with the children, our youth. My question is, please share with us what diversity, equity, and inclusion mean to you and why they're important. And please give us an example of a time when you have used these values in the workplace.
So diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity, I mean, we live in a diverse city. Not having, let me see if I could bring this together. I am a firm believer in what Martin Luther King said, that we should not judge a person by the color of their skin, but the character of their hearts. And I've lived my life according to that. And I think those words are true today as they were back in the 60s. So when we see equity, are you talking about equal opportunity or equal outcomes?
Whatever it means to you is fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I believe in equal opportunity, 100%, absolutely. Now, the next part of that question, let me make sure I get that right. What was that next part? I'm sorry?
And the next part is how, give us an example of where you have used it in the workplace.
In the workplace? I worked at Microsoft, so we were very big on DEI efforts, and I mentored. It was some girls coming into the tech field, right? And I had one intern that was absolutely amazing. She did such a fantastic job. Yeah, I am really proud of her.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so that concludes the questions from the council members. Council members, I'll ask if you have any questions. Deputy Mayor Honda, do you have a question?
I do have a question. This is on the application, question 5. If appointed to the council, what changes would you like to see? And your answer was to ensure civility of the Federal Way City Council. Can you explain that to me, please?
Civility of the Federal Way City Council?
Yeah, in your answer to us, on what changes you'd like to see on the council.
Oh, that was my answer, to see civility on the city council?
Yes.
I apologize, I don't remember saying that. But I do think all members of the city council should be civil.
I think we are.
Okay.
One of my hobbies is to watch other councils, because they're all on YouTube these days. And I think we're pretty darn civil to each other compared to things I see on other.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't recall saying that, or making any comments about the civility of this particular council.
I think that it's ensure civility of the Federal Way City Council, ensure that government resources, you want to read the rest of it?
Oh, you can, since you're doing it.
Okay. Ensure that government resources are not leveraged to promote or advance particular entities, but rather to enact policies that address the needs and rights of every citizen.
Yes, I agree. What I wrote down there, I see.
Okay.
That's what I said. I thought it was up here that I said something. I didn't remember what I wrote. Okay. Throw me for a loop.
Did I say that? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I do. One of the things that concerns me is the leveraging of public property to raise flags or promote a particular ideology. And that does concern me because it doesn't unite people, it divides people. For every flag that not everyone can get behind, you're alienating a certain group of people. And that is really unfortunate. There's one flag that I think we could all get behind. The United States flag, we should all be able to get behind the City of Federal Way flag. We should be able to get behind the Washington State flag. But if we're flying flags that don't represent government and represents an ideology, I don't think we should be doing that. I think.
Thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was just trying to figure out what your answer
And
meant.
I think that's probably what I meant in that
Okay,
question.
thank you very much. I appreciate you explaining that.
All right. Council, any other questions? Gordon, do you have anything else to close with?
Well, it's been a pleasure being here, and it's been a pleasure seeing you all and answering your questions. And I hope that I have the opportunity to sit with you if that be the case. And thank you so much for your time. I don't.
All right, thank you. Thank you for applying, and great job. Okay, and now it is time for Sadia Abdullah. All right. All right, Sadia Abdullah. And Sadia, before we get started, we'll go through, we'll give you 10 minutes to introduce yourself and talk about your qualifications and whatever else you'd like to say. Then we'll go around the council and ask, each council member would have an opportunity to ask you a question. And we're all done. I'll ask if any council members have follow-up questions. And when that's done, I'll ask you if you have any closing statements.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I know this has been a long evening, so I'll do my best to make sure we're not here too much longer in the interest of time. And so thank you for that introduction. Again, my name is Sadia J. Abdullah, and I'm excited for the opportunity to come before this body to express my deep desire to serve the city that I call home. I have a family tradition of education and earned a BA in Justice Studies and a master's in Public Administration. I spent the last 26 years deeply entrenched in the criminal legal system, developing, implementing, and monitoring alternatives to detention. 10 years ago, I arrived in this community and settled in. I sent my son to public school here in Federal Way. I ride public transportation to and from work. I appreciate the robust yet quiet nature of our community. I appreciate the public spaces and access to entertainment. I appreciate the deep bonds of trust and community that each of us is trying to build. Shirley Chisholm said, "Service is the rent we pay for our time on this earth." And today I stand ready to serve. As a criminal justice professional, I see how the lack of community resources impacts individuals and families. As an invested community member, I see how the unhoused are struggling to survive. As a mom of a recent Decatur High grad, I also see the need for access to vocational programs in high school. As the neighbor to a senior, I see the need for safe, affordable, communal spaces. As a daughter of an educator and a community activist, my foundation is rooted in the service of others, and today I stand ready to serve. My entire adult life has been about minimizing barriers and creating opportunities to center people's humanity, standing up for what is right and pushing back against the marginalization of human beings. And just as important, I bring a unique lived experience to this work that's similar to the policies, so similar to the people that our policies, initiatives, and services impact. I bring my full self to this work, and I believe that's what makes me a servant leader. Together, we can continue to be a thriving, robust, and welcoming community, while also investing in each other and addressing the structural causes of our community concerns. I believe that my ideas, my policies, and my experience put me in the best position to be part of the forward movement of our awesome city. Let me tell you why you should elect me. My 26 years in law enforcement, with over a decade in King County Jail and community corrections, make me uniquely suited to address this council, to work with this council on our city's crime and safety issues. I currently run programs that monitor over 400 defendants in community while also ensuring that they comply with their court orders and accountability. And many of those people live right here in Federal Way. I led the county in becoming compliant with the Tiffany Hill Act, protecting victims of domestic violence. This is a critical service, as Federal Way is number 3 in the county for reports of domestic violence. My goal will be to work in collaboration with our police department to bring behavioral health and mental health services, options for officers dealing with people who will not be accepted into King County Jail because of booking restrictions. My voice on this council, and in partnership with our business-focused members, will make us leaders of solving our region's issues. Again, I thank you for this opportunity. My name is Sadia J. Abdullah, and I'm standing ready to serve.
All right, thank you. We'll start off with questions from Council President Kochmar.
Thank you, Sadia. Thank you very much for your work with the jail system. Can you tell me what you do to bring business to Federal Way?
And so one of the things we need to be doing is building on our 320th corridor, making sure people are aware that we have light rail that will be here momentarily, but also we have a great bus system to get people back and forth to where they need to go. And so making sure that new businesses are ready to come here, making sure they have access to loans, making sure they have access to property. Like when we build out from Rising from the Dust project, so they'll know that this is a safe community for them to build their businesses.
All right. Councilmember Tran.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Saria, for applying. So my question is this, what would you do to address the lack of affordable housing in the city?
You know, one of the things that we were actually just talking about in the other room is affordable housing. I moved to Federal Way, quite some time ago, and I was looking for houses, $200,000, and I was able to look at about 10 houses. You can't do that now, right? And so one of the things that we have to do is make sure that individuals that are working have access to properties that are here. But we also have to look at different types of properties. We're no longer just a community of homes. We also have to look at condos. We have to look at having apartment buildings. And so those are the ways that we can begin to impact affordable and reasonably priced housing.
All right. Councilmember Walsh.
Yes, thank you for applying. Federal Way is one of the most diverse communities in the nation. This diversity brings opportunities. What can we do as a city to unify us as one community while at the same time celebrating our diversity?
Diversity is one of the things we always talk about. I don't think we have to do anything for diversity, right? We look around the room, black, white, men, women, straight, gay, all of those things. What we're doing too much is focusing on our differences. I don't think there's a parent in this room that doesn't want their kid to go to a Federal Way public school and get a good education. So let's focus on that. I don't think there's a person in this room that doesn't want to live in a house and be able to go out in their yard and go out on their front porch. We need to begin to focus on and building on those issues. Instead of looking at the things that divide us, focusing on the things that bring us together and improve our community.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Dovey.
Thank you for applying. Please tell us 2 accomplishments you're most proud of achieving and why.
So outside of the 2 kids that I produced and the grandkids, I think for this particular region, at my prior employment, I built a 75-bed residential facility down in Tacoma Thai Flats. They have in-house access to education, behavioral health, and social services. But there's also accountability attached to their program. There's also an opportunity for people to have family reintegration. And so for me, that 75-bed facility is one of the best things that I've ever done. The second thing is during my time with the Council of State Governments, working on legislation and working with different governors around the country on Second Chance Act. When people get out of jail or prison, we don't want them to go back. They need jobs. And so working with employers to bring those individuals home, those are 2 of the biggest accomplishments I'm proud of.
All right. Councilmember Safa-Dawson.
Thank you. Thank you, Sadia, for applying, and good to have you here. My question is, please share with us what diversity, equity, and inclusion mean to you and why they're important. And also, please give an example of a time when you have used these values in the workplace.
And so for me, in my current position, I work with a group of individuals that want to be promoted but don't necessarily have the skill set. And so part of my day is spent making sure those people have access to opportunities, making sure they have access to the needed skills to get those jobs. And so that's what I do in my job. And when you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, I want to focus more on the equity and then the inclusion piece. What we've got to do is to call up all community members, even those marginalized folks. We've got to get them at the table so to see how they can best fit into our city, how we can best work with those individuals. So for me, the inclusion part is the key part, and that's where we talk about not looking at all of our differences, but instead looking at the things that make us the same.
All right. Deputy Mayor Honda.
Hi, good to see you. What do you believe is the biggest issue facing Federal Way, and how would you suggest the council address it?
And so, spending 26 years in criminal justice, I will always stand by one of our big issues is people coming back into our community, as well as the safety of those individuals that are here. And we have to, if we want to continue to grow business here, we have to make sure that we're a safe community. And we do that by investing in individuals. We do that by investing in our nonprofits. We do that by partnering with them to get federal funds, to get state funds. The county, King County received, last time I checked, about $600 million in COVID. How much of that came to Federal Way? What do we do to leverage that? How do we get more of those dollars? It won't all come from our city, but it will come from us leveraging our partnerships.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, council, any other follow-up questions? Councilmember Dovey, I see you've got your light on.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Okay. Council, any other follow-up questions? Sadia, any closing thoughts, anything that you'd like to conclude with?
I do. I want to say the thing that I bring to this council is my commitment to this community. I have made this community my home. I actually work here, play here. I do all of the things in Federal Way. We eat at the restaurants. And so me being on this council not only brings someone who's committed to the community, but someone who has an actual expertise in community safety. And that is something that I hear about in this chamber on a regular basis. And so I appreciate your time, and I thank you for the opportunity. And again, I stand ready to serve.
All right, thank you very much. Great job. Okay, that concludes our interviews. Now what I will do is I'll go ahead and read the rules under our 2.21.5 under voting for council appointment. When I finish the rules, I'll ask a couple of questions. 21.5 under the council rules. Upon completion of the interviews, council members may discuss the qualifications of the applicants in an executive session. However, all interviews, deliberations, nomination, and votes taken by the council will be open to the public. A, the mayor will ask for nominations from the council members for the purpose of creating a group of candidates to consider. No second is needed. B, nominations are closed by a motion, second, and majority vote of the council. C, council members may deliberate such matters as criteria for selection and the nominated group of candidates. D, the mayor will poll council members to ascertain that council members are prepared to vote. E, the council clerk will proceed with a roll call vote. F, elections will continue until a nominee receives a majority vote of the remaining council members. That's 4 members. G, at any time during the election process, the city council may postpone elections until a date certain or a regular meeting if a majority vote has not been received. H, upon a majority vote, city council may go into executive session to further discuss the applicant's qualifications. I, the mayor will declare the nominee receiving the majority vote as the new council member. The appointed council member will be sworn into office by the city clerk at the earliest opportunity and no later than the next regularly scheduled city council meeting. J, if the city council does not fill a vacancy within 90 days of the declared vacancy, state law delegates appointment powers to King County, and that would be the King County Council. Okay, and so I have read the rules, and let's see. Actually, at this time, I will open the floor for nominations. No second is needed. Council, are there any nominations? Deputy Mayor Honda,
I would like to go into executive session.
is that a motion?
I move that we move into executive session to discuss the candidates.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. By clear unanimous vote, we will recess to executive session to discuss qualifications. We will be in recess for that purpose. How much time do we think? 20 minutes, sound about right? Okay, up to 20 minutes. That would be about a quarter after, somewhere around that, a quarter after 7 for purposes of the record.
Maybe 25, yeah.
Why don't we say 25, let's say up to 25 minutes, 20 after the hour. If we need more time, we'll come back out. We were in recess for that purpose. Hi, everybody. We originally scheduled about 25 minutes. Council needs about 20 more minutes. All right, I'll call this meeting back to order. At this time, I will open the floor for nominations. Are there any nominations? Councilmember Dovey.
Yeah, I'll nominate Paul McDaniel.
Okay, Paul McDaniel. Okay, any other nominations?
I'll nominate Anna Patrick.
Anna Patrick.
I'll nominate Sadia Abdullah.
All right, Sadia Abdullah. Oh, thank you, Pam. All right, are there any other thank you so much. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations?
I move the nominations close.
All right, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
It's been a motion and a second to close nominations. Is there any discussion?
Well, can I say something?
Yes, please. Council President? Yes.
Okay, well, I did take down, we have some wonderful candidates. I'm just absolutely blown away by the amount of service that's, and I wrote down some of the similarities. We have people that were very concerned about homelessness, addicts, encampments. We had people worried about crime, public safety. We had people who were very involved in volunteerism. We had one person who talked about spiritual. We had one person who talked about flags. We had two people who talked about data analytics. We had one person who wanted to ensure civility. We talked about the downtown core, and we talked about housing, how to solve our housing problem. We talked about small business, health through housing. One person talked about investing in individuals. And I think this is the common core, that I think the common thread through all of those interviews was that they all, and we do too, love the community. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
And I second that.
Hear, hear. Okay, there's been a motion and a second, and now discussion to close nominations. Any further discussion? All those in favor of closing nominations?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Now we have three confirmed nominations: Paul McDaniel, Anna Patrick, Sadia Abdullah. So just to refresh everybody, what we'll do is the city clerk will essentially call a roll call of each council member. Each council member will be asked to provide a name of the person they choose. This is, again, Council Rule 21.5. All right, with that, Stephanie?
Councilmember Asafa Dawson,
Sadia Abdullah.
Councilmember Tran,
Paul McDaniel.
Councilmember Walsh,
Anna Patrick?
Councilmember Dovey,
Paul McDaniel.
Deputy Mayor Honda,
Paul McDaniel.
Council President Kochmar.
Anna Patrick.
Read.
So it's 3-2. Paul McDaniel received 3 votes, and actually, do you want to say it?
Sorry, I thought you said it. So we have 2 votes for Anna Patrick, 3 votes for Paul McDaniel, and 1 vote for Sadia Abdullah.
Okay. I just want to make it official. We have the city clerk do it. Okay. All right. So no one has received a majority vote. There is now the nominations for this evening stay static. So the nominations have been closed. The 3 individuals are the 3 individuals that the council will be choosing from. Let's do a thank you. Let's do a couple. Let's do another roll call. Let's give it another shot.
All right, here we go. Councilmember Asafa Dawson,
Sadia Abdullah.
Councilmember Tran,
Paul McDaniel.
Councilmember Walsh,
Paul McDaniel.
Councilmember Dovey,
Paul McDaniel.
Deputy Mayor Honda,
Paul McDaniel.
Council President Kochmar.
Paul McDaniel.
All right, we have a successful candidate, 5-1 for Paul McDaniel.
All right. And once again, thank you to all the candidates. We very much appreciate it. Now, we will have our city clerk administer the oath of office to Paul McDaniel. And why don't we have Stephanie, where would you prefer? Over there at the podium? Now, this is the official swearing in. There will also, just to avoid any confusion, at the next city council meeting, it is the custom of the council to do a ceremonial swearing in as well. This is the legal swearing in. We'll also have the ceremonial one for Paul's family, friends, and the community as well at the next regular city council meeting.
All right, after I swear you in, I'll have you sign all the papers, and you can have a copy for yourself. So raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name. Having been appointed to the position of City of Federal Way Council Position Number 2, do solemnly swear or affirm that I am a citizen of the United States and the state of Washington, that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States, the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington, and the laws and ordinances of the City of Federal Way, and I will faithfully and impartially perform and discharge the duties of this office in and for City of Federal Way, Washington, according to the law and the best of my ability. Good job. Congratulations.
All right. All right. That concludes this meeting. Once again, thank you all to the applicants, members of the community. We very much appreciate your time and your energy. Congratulations, council member. We're adjourned.